Well, we certainly do have a lot more Vancouver Canucks stuff to talk about than I thought we would, especially since we're in this down period where we're waiting for the actual team to do stuff because their game isn't today, it's actually tomorrow. But we have ourselves some more word. Now, I'm recording this video on July 31st. It's still July. It is the day before the play-in series starts, so maybe there's some new information that comes out by the time this video is uploaded that changes the whole narrative. But at this very moment, we're talking about Jake Virtanen, we're talking about Loui Eriksson, we're talking about the adaptability of this Vancouver Canucks roster, and we're talking about Jacob Markstrom too. So let's get over with the Jake Virtanen stuff because I know that's what you want to hear first. Virtanen is in a weird spot. Earlier from the Vancouver Canucks training camp, Virtanen was actually beat out by guys like Zack MacEwen and guys like Michael Furland on the lineups and in terms of how Travis Green was rolling the lines. That was something we chronicled back before the play-in series and the exhibition games and before the teams even went to Edmonton and Toronto, but at Vancouver Canucks practice, Travis Green made the decision to put Virtanen on what looks to be what was the fifth line, you could probably call it. However, once the actual exhibition game came though, we had ourselves a roster which featured 13 forwards, including Zack MacEwen, but not including Virtanen or Loui Eriksson. Now, Loui is in a spot where people kind of understand why he's not in the lineup, but Virtanen was a guy who many Canucks fans thought, darn, that's the big one. Jake Virtanen is supposed to be a physical force, a sniping force out there, a goal-scoring, body-pushing forward who can actually do stuff offensively, but for the most part, Travis Green decided to go with MacEwen instead and run a third line of Furland, Roussel, and Gaudette, and have a fourth line of what was Sutter, Mott, and Beagle, having Zack MacEwen also rotating in and out through there too. So that's why after the game, people were saying things that were kind of, let's just say, harsh. We had ourselves a few articles written about Jake Virtanen. This one's from Patrick Johnston. The Canucks' patience runs thin on the project that is Jake Virtanen. We also had radio hits, guys like Don Taylor coming out and saying that he feels they're done with Jake. This was probably the more harsher of the two examples I'm using here, but this radio hit by Don Taylor on TSN 1040 spoke about how he gets the feeling they're done. This is Jake's first opportunity to play in the postseason, and this happens where he is scratched. Taylor then talks about how Jake Virtanen has been under Travis Green since the Utica Comets days. Yeah, remember Jake Virtanen's first year in the NHL where he was with Jared McCann, and the team was bad, and then the next year Virtanen was moved to Utica and McCann was traded for Goodbranson? Yeah, well, Travis Green was in Utica. He's seen Virtanen since 2014, and he doesn't believe in him now. He's seen his act. Are they going to commit to him? No way. That was Don Taylor's take on the radio on July 30th, so that was yesterday at the time of recording this video, but earlier today we had ourselves the brand new practice session, which included Jake Virtanen and Loui Eriksson as part of the main group. This is what Brendan Batchelor tweeted out. Virtanen and Eriksson practice as part of 14 forwards today. MacEwen was with the second group. So now we have a situation where, on a Vancouver Canucks team with 14 forwards instead of 13, and one of them that was swapped out was Zack MacEwen. So now we're taking a look at the lines, and we're taking a look at how these will be distributed. First off, that top six, that remains the same. There's no way they're taking off Brock Besser in the top six and they're putting Eriksson in. That's not happening again. Miller, Petey, Toffoli, Pearson, Horvat, and Besser. That's our top line. We also have ourselves speculation as to what would happen with the third line. This is a tweet from John Jameson. What are your thoughts, Brendan Batchelor, on a Furland, Gaudette, Virtanen line? Batchelor says that won't happen. Roussel has been playing solid through camp. And for the most part, yes, this is something that I do agree with. I don't think Virtanen is coming into this lineup to play alongside of Furland and Gaudette in a third-line role. They really do like what they're doing with Roussel there, and the guy even scored the only goal of the exhibition game. Michael Furland, even on the previous interview that we spoke about in the previous Canucks video, was even talking about how he's developed some good chemistry with Gaudette and Roussel, and it's nice playing with those two guys. So just for the sake of keeping things the way they were, where the only goal goal of the game came from that line. I don't think they're moving away a Roussel for a Virtanen. Plus, even though Ferland can play the left wing, I think he's probably much more suited to the right wing because he's been away from hockey for so long. He's just recently coming back. He played his first game in months, and now you're going to move him again? Nah, I think we're going to keep it that way. The reply to this says, I see. It's just hard to see how you can slot both Virtanen and Ferland into the lineup while maintaining a good PK. Because it would be Sutter, not Roussel, who would come out to make way for Jake. Sutter was playing on the right side on the fourth line, centered by Jay Beagle. So what we have now is a team that looks like that top six we mentioned earlier, with a third line of Ferland, Roussel, Gaudette, and then a fourth line of what would be Tyler Mott, Beagle, and let's just say Virtanen. Maybe you could slot in Loui Eriksson instead into line rushes. So the fourth line is going to be a toss-up between either Mott, Beagle, and Sutter, or Eriksson, Beagle, and Virtanen. The only one out of those five who's probably going to be consistent is Jay Beagle. Sutter has been mostly playing on the right wing, and just for the sake of keeping things consistent, I feel that Beagle at center is probably the only option that they're going to want to go with. So, obviously, this is my own opinions and speculation. If things change, that's not my fault, but that's just how I see it. But with the way we have things set up now, we very well could see Jake Virtanen return to the lineup against the Minnesota Wild Game 1. The only thing is, when it comes to the Zack attack, we don't know what's going to go on with him. He may be in, he may be out. We may dress 15 forwards and he's not there. We may dress 15 and Loui Eriksson's not there or whatever. Who knows? But for now, there is more competition as to who's going to be in that bottom six line. Travis Green says it himself. Adaptable is the word of Canucks camp, which means that whatever happens, they're going to see who can adapt the best, and as the team rotates through its fourth line, its third line, etc., who does a better job at maintaining the flow that the Canucks want to uphold. So we'll see what happens tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild. Of course, this video is being recorded on the 31st before August, so if there's more information that comes out on August 1st that changes up this entire narrative, I apologize. Ending off this video, though, we're going to go over some quick notes on Jacob Markstrom. Jim Benning sat down and did an interview on Sportsnet that was published onto NHL.com, and he said this. Jacob Markstrom and the Canucks will negotiate the contract after the playoffs. The GM says we'll get something figured out with the goalie before he becomes a free agent. I've got a good relationship with Jacob, and you know we talked again yesterday, Benning told Sportsnet. We're going to get something figured out for him. We both decided, let's just wait until after the playoffs are done. We'll sit down with his agent, Pat Morris, and with Jacob, and we'll get something figured out. We want to keep him on the team. He's been a good goalie for us here the last couple of years, and a big part of the team. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to know that he's right. Markstrom was probably a player who could have been nominated for the Vezina. The guy's bailed out the Vancouver Canucks so much over the past 2 seasons, so obviously you want to keep this guy around. Obviously, there's some more issues with the salary cap and the expansion draft that are going to come up later on in the years too, but for the short-term future, the team wants to keep him, the fans want to keep him, everybody knows that Markstrom is a guy who is beloved in this city, so keeping him, at least in the short term, seems like a better decision. Furthermore, Benning also says that the playoffs are not going to have an impact as to what's going to happen with the contract talks. He says, I don't think that's part of it. So if by some odd chance that is probably not likely, but still may be possible, that Jacob Markstrom completely just blows up and he doesn't really do anything, he doesn't save a puck against the Minnesota Wild. In 3 games, mind you, it's not going to have any impact as to how the contract negotiations are done, at least according to what Jim Benning said. Now, we'll see what happens with Markstrom. He was okay against the Winnipeg Jets, it's just, he let in 3 goals, and that sounds really bad on paper. It's just, the Canucks defense, man. Vandenberg, you can't be pinching like that. Myers, you can't be just sprawling out in front of the slot like that. You gotta actually do your best to disturb the enemy play and actually get the puck free. You know, that's basic stuff. But the Canucks kind of hung out Markstrom to dry a little bit. He was still okay, but at the same time, it doesn't really appear that it would have any impact on the money going forward. So talk to me in the comments what you think about Eriksson, Virtanen, the Zack attack, how Loui and Jake could replace him in the lineup. Is that something you're comfortable with? Furthermore, what do you think about the contract negotiations with Markstrom and how things have gone thus far? I personally think it's okay. I mean, it's fair to say that you would want to wait until after the playoffs, but at the same time, there's still a lot of debate as to what should go on with Demko, the expansion draft, the salary cap, how is Tanev going to play into this, etc. So talk to me what you think about all that stuff in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that's and bye.